Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Heartspace Atelier. My name is Henry. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for finding your way to this sacred, beautiful space where we dive deep into our deeper well inside all of us that is made of love, connection, and light. Hello everyone, I hope you're having a beautiful week. It is kind of rainy outside, it is very dark, but the sun comes out from time to time. And I'm sitting here in the garden house and I lit the peony petals candle that I bought like a billion years ago. And today, as I have been going through a very heavy week, if I'm being completely honest with you, I just wanted an escape. And I promised you, like 2 episodes ago, when I was telling you about my private almond mom school lore, I promised you that I would tell you about the crackhead crush. Now, I was going back and forth if I should dedicate the name crackhead crush to this person, because I know it's very mean. It is mean. And I'm not saying that this person was a crackhead, okay? Disclaimer. What I am telling you, though, is that for my soul, it was a crackhead crush. Because it was so unhealthy. And this is a story that happened in my life when I was 17, which is literally exactly 7 years ago now. And as spring is unfolding, I always feel very melancholic for some reason, especially that spring when I fell in love with the crackhead guy. And every spring ever since, I kind of just look back to that situation and I laugh because it was so random. It was so challenging. It was so draining. It was so funny. You know, it is a comedy. It was a comedy back then, but it felt like a tragedy back then, you know? But now that I'm looking at it 7 years from the future, I can obviously see it was such a comedy, and it shaped me, it shaped my character, it shaped my standards and my self-growth, and, you know, it really put things into perspective for me on what I want in a relationship, and, you know, set boundaries for myself. And honestly, if I hadn't had that experience, I may still have bad standards. I may have not attracted the wonderful partner that I have now. So I feel like it was a very vital and important part of my growth. So let's get into it and grab a snack, grab a tea, because it's gonna be spicy. So let me set the scene. March 2019. I was 17 years old, as I said. I just started working at this cafe. This is my first job ever, by the way. When I was 17, I started working at this cafe in my hometown. And it was a very transformative thing for me to do already, because if you listen to my previous lore storytime, I mentioned that the years before that I was so lonely. I didn't leave the house at all. I was homeschooled, and it was just like a lot of like heaviness in general. And so this job kind of woke me up again. I was awakened. I had my inner spring unfolding again, and it felt like I was going through some kind of metamorphosis. And now that I'm sitting here and looking back at this exact time, I realize deeply how beautiful it was for me. You know, this cafe, this job, it's a deep lore. I had a huge issue with my boss as well. And there was so much that was, you know, kind of not in alignment, but at the time it totally was. It took me out of my sadness. It took me out of my loneliness. I was showing up there every weekday. I was becoming a social butterfly again, and that was an energy that I had not experienced since childhood. Back in kindergarten, I was such a social butterfly. But the years between kindergarten and starting to work at the cafe when I was 17, I was lonely, I was anxious, I was sad, I didn't have any friends. So this really took me out of a dark time. So honestly, I would say if you're going through a dark time, if you feel really lonely, pick something that involves people that you normally wouldn't do. Because it wasn't really my plan to work at a cafe. It wasn't really like on paper, I was like, oh, I'm gonna work at a cafe. It kind of evolved very randomly. And so you should find something that is random and that involves people where you show up every day, especially if you work from home. This is so important, especially if you work from home and you feel super lonely. I think it is so important to get your ass outside and work with other people, whether that's volunteering somewhere, whether that's taking on a mini job, like something with people. I realize the importance of that, especially now that I'm self-employed again. It can be very easy for me to just stay inside for a whole week, and just work and work and work and work. And I'm so fulfilled by that. I don't think my work I don't see it as like this daunting job. I see it as this passion of mine that kind of supports my vacation lifestyle, because I really, really want to live my life like it's a never-ending vacation. Like Dua Lipa, for example. She does a great job at this. Memes on the internet have been cruising around about her just kind of like living her whole life and making it look like a vacation. I want to be her. Anyway, besides the point. So it's March 2019. I started working at this cafe. I start being put together for shifts with different people working at the cafe. So there's two sides to the cafe. So one side was the weekday cafe, which was kind of like centered towards youth and young people, and they would basically throw little events that are harmless, that are non-alcoholic and stuff. And then there was the weekend side, and the weekend side for that cafe was basically, throwing actual parties, and for adults 18 plus. So they had different staff for the two departments of the cafe. One special night, sometime during March, I had a shift for this very special night. And I had to work a little bit later in the day. And it wasn't like an 18 plus event. It was basically some kind of performance or something. I don't really remember. But I was basically put together with somebody else from the weekend bar team. And we would then be behind the counter, sell coffee and stuff for this main event, not only cater towards the youth cafe, but like for everything else. And this was my first time not standing behind the usual counter and actually working for a bigger event. It was like a big corporation cafe type of thing. I don't really know how to explain, but it doesn't matter either. What truly matters is what happened that night, okay? I start my shift, I prepare the counter, I prepare the coffee, I prepare milk, whatever a barista would do. And this guy shows up. And now that I think of this is where I start cringing, because I don't think I've ever told anyone this story, like, in depth. I just kind of kept it to myself. I mean, people knew, like, I talked a bit about it, but, like, this is me going through every single detail, which is so funny to me now, because I'm like, but I need to tell this, because if you're 17, or if you are thinking about crushing on somebody that is a crackhead to your soul's energy, I need you to wake the fuck up. And this is why it's so important for me to tell that story. So I start my shift. No one's there yet, because it's like 1 or 2 hours before the main event starts. This guy shows up. Never seen him before. Looks very kind, handsome, but troubled. He had a troubled look in his eyes. The first thing I noticed, this soul was in pain. 17-year-old me who had a helping complex saw the look on this guy in this guy's eyes, and I was like, I'm gonna fix him. Oh my god, baby Henry, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. But I did. At least I tried. So what happened basically was we started, introducing each other and preparing the bar. I don't really know another word for bar, obviously not a bar, but a cafe bar, I don't know. We start preparing that. And we start talking, and this guy seemed to also be like open for spirituality, so we talked about spiritual stuff. And we actually had like a really interesting, good conversation. And he started also like sharing some like troubles with me. And back in the day, like, back when I was 17, I really had this issue of absorbing other people's issues and wanting to help them immediately, and just really being an empath without boundaries, I would describe myself as. So I was standing there, 17-year-old baby Henry, super duper extreme ultra empath without boundaries, wanting to help the whole world, crying with everyone, like, And then this guy shows up and talks about his many issues, and we have such a like deep talk, and we were working together. And back in that time, for some reason, I was really attracted to the specific type of fucked up guy, which now I look back and it could never in a billion years happen again, like never. And it's just so beautiful to see how the tables have turned for me and how different I am now, and how much healing can affect your relationship life as well, which we will get into later, okay? But now I'm just gonna stick to the story. So we end up talking and talking and talking, and in my mind I was like, okay, he's handsome, and he has issues, and oh my goodness, I feel so attracted to that. But I am gonna take a step back, because actually before that, if you listen to my private almond mom school thing, I had a crush during that era, and it wasn't too long ago at that point, and I was like, I can't, it's too soon, and I need to protect my heart. But goodness, do I want to help this person, But I still somehow managed to kind of like pull myself away. But then things shifted. A week later, I actually had a tarot reading done for me by this local tarot reader lady. Because one thing you need to know, back at that time, in 2019, I had my quote-unquote spiritual awakening. I was so focused on doing tarot readings, having tarot readings done for me, crystals and all of that, like, was such like a new thing for me. So at that time, divine timing, I had a tarot reading done for me. And this tarot reader, she was very good at what she was doing, but didn't think about the consequences for her clients. And also she was low-key, high-key, super racist and weird fucking energy. So, I think that was maybe 1 or 2 times after that I saw her, then never again. But at that time, it was a very exciting tarot reading for me, because for some reason, it just came up in the reading. She was like, oh my goodness, Henry, I see a soulmate in your energetic field. And 17-year-old me was so naive and was like, oh my god, really? Who is it? And then she described that guy I met at the bar and worked the shift at the cafe bar, So I was head over heels. I was like, oh my god, if she's telling me that, then I should try and help him, and I should, meet up with him, discuss his issues because I can fix him. Like, for some reason, a green light just went off in my head. And I was like, okay, we're gonna fix him. Let's go. And as divine timing and destiny had it, a couple days later, I show up for my shift, which, mind you, he had really nothing to do with my with my shift times, because he was working on the weekends. But for some reason, he showed up on a random Wednesday. Like, I don't know when it was, but let's just say it was a Wednesday. I was working, I was starting my shift, and all of a sudden he shows up there, like, in the cafe. I was like, what are you doing here? Like, you're not supposed to be here, but, like, you're meant to be working on the weekends. Why are you here? And I think he was just, like, doing something, like, financial, like, just getting his money or something for the month. Like, I don't know what it was exactly. But basically the same thing happened again. And we were talking as I was opening the cafe and stuff. And at that point, I was dead set on helping this guy, because, see, this guy had a lot of issues. I don't want to share them too much. I don't want to, like, invade someone's privacy like that, but he had a lot of issues, and you could even see it in his eyes. And as we kept talking, the initial energy I got from this guy was confirmed. He had issues. Oh my goodness. He had crazy issues, okay? But bless, I'm not saying that's his fault. But it became a mission for me to try and figure out, because after that second meeting, I guess you could say I had a crush. And the crush grew and grew as I was seeing him more and more. Randomly. I never chased, or I never, tried to chase his, like, working times or shifts down. I was just kind of always being alert if maybe he's there. And I love the warmth coming from the candle, by the way. So I just had to. My hands are always cold. I'm not even kidding. They're always cold. Very few times they are warm. I don't know what it is, but my hands are always cold. And feet. Always cold. Anyway, so I meet him by chance a couple of times. And then I would say, like, April, May was kind of like the peak, because I was so deeply crushing on this guy, because also in my silly little head I believed he was my soulmate, because I was a naive 17-year-old and I believed everything this tarot reader told me, and I believed I needed to fix him because he was my soulmate, and in order for our connection to thrive, I needed to fix him. Isn't that just insane? Insane era. That was my insane era. Okay? And so the weeks evolved. We kept seeing each other at the cafe, never private, but we were texting from time to time, because he basically was always kind of complaining in his stories. So I saw his, like, WhatsApp stories, and he was, like, complaining about what he was going through. And then I would always, like, send him something encouraging, like, hey, this and that, and blah, 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 blah. If you need me, I'm here, and stuff. And then he'd ghost me. And then I was still beef head over heels. This is embarrassing me. This is embarrassing me to admit it, okay? But I felt so called to share this on this podcast today. So then one night, it was kind of like the cherry on top, where I started feeling a bit disgusted by this guy. Because one night I went to this event that was also thrown at this place. And he arrived there for his shift. And mind you, it was still like very early in the night. And it was like, people just started coming in. It was a very kind of like chill energy. And I was talking with him and he looked done. He looked so done. And I discovered that he was on something. He was on rugs. He was on rugs. And one thing about me, I'm disgusted. I'm just disgusted by. I think these things are disgusting for me personally. Okay, and when people do it around me, I get disgusted. I don't like it. I could never be with somebody who does that. I could also not be close friends with somebody who is bumping it every weekend. Like, it's just, I've always found it disgusting. I've seen the effect it had on people, and I've seen the dark sides of being alcoholic and stuff. Like, not myself, but in my distant family, I've seen it, and in people, I've seen it. And I think it's very sad, but I don't want to have anything to do with that energy. So in that moment, that night, when I saw him bumping that on a random night, while the night was just getting started, that's when I was kind of getting disgusted. But besides getting disgusted, I wanted to help this guy even more, because I wasn't only disgusted, I was also very sad, because I was an empath without boundaries. And, I was trying to fix somebody who wasn't even my age. Like, he was older, like not older, but he was a bit older than I was. And looking back, I'm just like, boy, are you, come on, So I would say this was kind of like the peak point where it started going downhill, and slowly but surely I was kind of like trying hard to let this crush cool down. Because the thing was with that guy, to this day, I don't know if he was into me, if he had reciprocated feelings, if there was something from his side. I think looking back, they may have been, but I'm not too sure. But I also don't need to know. I don't really care. I just needed to talk about this, and we're gonna get even deeper into this exact topic in a second. Yeah, I was never really sure if that guy reciprocated feelings. As I said, I have a feeling that he did, but at the end of the day, looking back on this now, I'm so glad this did not work out. You have no idea. Because if this had worked out, I would have drowned. This energy, this guy was a crackhead to my soul. This is what I mean. He was not a crackhead, an actual crackhead. But for my soul, he was. He was bad for me. He was bad for my energy. He was draining me. He was worrying me. I was worried about a guy I wasn't even with. And this is something I need to preach to you guys now. Sit down and listen up to what I'm about to say. If you're meeting somebody and you're just getting to know them, or if you're just freshly in a relationship, and if you barely know this person, who are you to think that you can help them? And who are you to think that you should help them? Do you know how horrible it is for your soul to think that you can fix somebody? You can't. You cannot fix anyone but yourself. You can maybe sometimes give somebody tools to help and support your close friends and support the people around you, and with your healing energy. That is beautiful. And if you are in an established relationship, you can definitely help that person because you know that person. But if you are trying to fix somebody you just met all you will do is drown. And why are you trying to fix somebody in the first place that would never reciprocate the actions? You know, I told you, I was texting this guy, giving him advice. He always ghosted me. He always ghosted my advice, you know? Why are you doing this to yourself, you know? You need to be very clear on what you want. And also there's two different things, right? We know what the heart wants, but we also know what would support us best, what our soul wants. So back at that time of my life, my heart wanted somebody fucked up that I could fix. Because maybe subconsciously I thought that would bring things full circle with my own healing. But now that I'm looking back on it, I realize the only reason why I wanted to fix that person is because I didn't dare to tend to my own wounds, because I was scared to fix myself first. So I tried to distract myself and pour that energy into somebody else who wouldn't even reciprocate it or accept it in the first place. I was pouring into a wall. Nothing reached the sky. I want to deeply let you know that you can only save yourself. Always save yourself first. And if you find yourself in a situation with somebody that you have feelings for or crush on, and that person is not giving you what your soul wants, they're not giving you the world, they are not pouring as much energy into your cup as you do for them, how dare you go out of your way to help them? You are not their mommy, you're not their therapist, it's gonna lead to nothing, because that person's not gonna accept your healing, your sacred healing energy. If you're watching this, I just know you're gonna resonate with this because you may be an empath. Your sacred healing empath energy can only be poured into the people that are worthy of it. And I had to learn this the hard way with this guy. And I didn't even go into every single story with him. But it was very intense, very draining, very sad. Because this person had zero ambition, was very poor in life. And what I mean by that is having no dreams, having no hope, staying stuck, hating yourself, hate talking yourself in every single talk we have, you know? That's what I mean by being a poor soul. You cannot save anyone that doesn't want to save themselves first. And I had to learn this the hard way. That is okay for me. I've healed from it. I've grown from it so much, because that was the official last time where I was so deeply desperate. And it was so bad for my soul. It was so crackhead crush, you know, for my soul, that it never happened again. And from that moment on, I started brick by brick, slowly but surely, setting boundaries, setting standards for my relationship life, and actually finally pouring the love that I needed back then so desperately into myself, and not just going around and trying to fix other people. And that is also very self-centered, if you ask me, because for you to think that you can fix somebody, it's self-centered. You can't. What you can do is support, and you can support even better if you have good boundaries, and if you never, ever, ever, ever pour from an empty cup. Always pour your own cup first. And this message only goes for pouring into people's cups that you don't know, because now, I would never do that, but I would definitely pour from an empty cup if it's my close friends, if it's my loved ones, if it's my relationship, if it's my family. I will pour from an empty cup if I have to. I will. But some of you are like going out there, running around, pouring from a minus empty cup to some fuckboy, to some man with diapers who doesn't even deserve it in a million years. And you have the audacity to think that you can fix him or that you're helping him. No, you can't. You can never do that. It's selfish for you to think that way as well. Why do you need to run around fixing other people? You cannot even fix yourself. And I'm not even holding your hand when I tell you this. It is weak. I don't care. What is strong is fixing yourself first. Having standards for yourself. And not running around some crackhead trying to fix his life while you cannot even care for your own. You have such strength within your soul. You need to unleash it, and you need to unleash it by having proper standards for yourself. That is the only way you can unleash that strength. But if you keep running around trying to fix other people without even fixing yourself, what are you doing? It's clown shit. You are a clown that broke free from the circus. No, actually, you're still inside the circus, but you need to break free by finally setting some boundaries. Like, girl, your relationship life will do a whole 180 once you start forcing yourself to have better boundaries and better standards for yourself. Ask yourself, instead of what your heart wants, because your heart might be influenced by toxic relationships that you've seen when you were a child, ask yourself what your soul wants. My soul wants stability. My soul wants stable, healthy love with good communication, with good peace. My soul wants peace. My soul wants stable routines in love. My soul wants to be able to rely on somebody. And I manifested all of this the second I started saying no to things that drained my soul, drained my heart. I would even go as far as to say, if you were traumatized in your life and you feel like what your heart wants is straight up bullshit, throw whatever your heart wants in the trash for a while. Because you will see, as you are on your healing path, what your soul wants is more important. And at a specific point in your healing journey, what your soul wants will reflect what your heart wants, and vice versa. But it may take a while, because I sure as hell had my issues in relationships that were presented to me when I was a child. I was traumatized by that, and I had horrible examples when it came to love when I was a child, and I needed to work through that. So for so long, I thought my heart wanted trash, but it was just my traumatized inner child that felt attracted to that. But now, I love me, a stable, healthy, mentally, physically, soulfully, heartfully healthy partner. A stable partner that can give me the love that my inner child truly needs. Your inner child doesn't need another fucked up crackhead. I thought that was the case for me when I was 17. Just not the case. You deserve stable love. You deserve a calming, healing, beautiful, stable, harmonious love. It is your birthright. So sometimes you need to pick yourself up out of the gutter and have a really strict and eye-to-eye conversation with yourself and be like, it doesn't matter if I have feelings for this person. If they don't reciprocate the energy that I'm pouring into them, I will go. And that's what I did when I was 17. That summer, after a couple of months of being head over heels with this person, at some point, even though I was still in love with this person, I picked myself up. Because I realized that I cannot go on like this. I deserved better. And that is how my healing journey started in that regard. And I'm so glad to say that having standards and not settling for just anyone, and, not chasing, and realizing that a stable, healthy love can only come to me if I work on myself and if I say no to people that cannot reciprocate that energy. That's how I realized I'm doing a good I'm doing a good job. I'm doing a good job in life, at healing, in relationship healing. I've done a great job, and I need to pat myself on the shoulder. And if you don't feel the same, let this podcast episode be a sacred reminder to you that just by watching this, you're already embarking on the path of healing yourself, of finally coming into alignment with partners, friends, situations, opportunities that are good for your soul. And then one day you will find yourself in a healthy, stable relationship that your soul wants, but then you're gonna wake up and you're like, oh my gosh, my heart wants that too now. I'm so glad I never settled for the crackhead. That was my little story time, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, let me know how this resonated with you. What thoughts went through your head as I was telling you all of this? And also, I do want to let you guys know that in April, I am going to be restocking my jewelry because we have been a little MIA from that. I've been in my hometown for a while because I'm dealing with some family issues. And it's been a little bit, kind of not chaotic, but, pushed to the back. But it's gonna come back in April. And also, I am still open for tarot readings. They have always been open and they're still open. And if you want to have some loving guidance from me, check out my website at twelfcharms.com. It's where I'm gonna be selling my jewelry, dropping my jewelry in April, and also where I always offer the readings. And I would love to have you. I love doing readings so much. It fulfills my soul so much to be able to help you and pour some beautiful light into your field. And I would love to be a light on your path, so feel free to check that out as well. Otherwise, feel free to follow my podcast on Spotify, Heartspace Atelier. Also, links are all down below. And if you're listening on Spotify already, you can check out my YouTube channel where I upload the podcast episodes, as well as the occasional tarot reading or other videos. I want to get into vlogs as well. Let me know what you think of that. On YouTube, Henry W. Rose. Anyway, enough of that. I love you guys so much. I'll see you next Thursday. Mwah. Bye.